Hi, I'm Don Rich. Welcome to this episode of Rich Insights. Today we're going to focus on quantitative easing and whether or not it is a weapon of mass destruction. All right, this is the second of a three-part series on QE. We started with QE in the US. Today we're going to talk about QE in Europe, and we're going to finish with QE in Japan. Now, there's some important differences between the US and Europe, and there's a common theme here as well. In both cases, we are nationalizing our fixed income markets. Right? That's one of the biggest problems. We're nationalizing our fixed income markets. Fixed income securities that used to be available in the marketplace are now on the central bank's balance sheets. We've nationalized that. Now, the effect of that then is the remaining fixed income securities are bid up in price, which lowers the interest rates. And then that encourages more and more debt taking. Because as interest rates are lowered, you get to roll over, as debt becomes due, you get to roll it over, issue new debt, and at lower prices. It's like a money-making machine. Right? That's the second part of it. This unlimited debt issuance is not sustainable. Nationalizing financial markets is not good. Unsustainable debt issuance is not good. Right? So that's the commonality between Europe and the US. What about the difference? Well, the key difference is in the US, there's really no limit to how much QE we could do. At the peak, the Fed's balance sheet was about $4 trillion. If you compare that to the $22-23 trillion of debt outstanding, of Treasury debt outstanding, well then you can see that's really not a binding constraint, right? We're a long way away from the $22 or $23 trillion level. That's not the same in Europe, all right? That's going to be the big difference. In Europe, they conduct their quantitative easing plan on a proportional basis. It's proportional to each country's representation in the EU. So Germany has the largest representation, France is second, Italy, Spain, so forth. So they're buying, the central bank is buying these fixed income securities proportional to each country's representation. All right. So far, not a big difference. But here's the problem. Each country has a different level of indebtedness. Countries like Germany have a small amount of debt outstanding. Countries like Italy are highly indebted. So we've reached a point that it's hard for quantitative easing to continue because we're running out of German debt. If we try to maintain the proportional aspect, we're going to very quickly run out of German debt. Right? These quantitative easing programs have been in place for quite a while. And so this is where we're at today. So we've got a couple choices. One, the ECB could continue the QE program and just violate the proportionality. Right? Now stop and think about that. That doesn't play very well in Europe, because you'd have the ECB buying a disproportionate amount of Italian debt, right? So it'd act as a stimulus plan for Italy disproportionately. But who's on the hook? Who's on the other side? Who's underwriting the ECB in this exposure? Well, it gets back to the representation. It's the German taxpayers that face the lion's share of the exposure. So you can see why it wouldn't sit very well on Main Street if you have German taxpayers subsidizing an Italian stimulus program. All right, so what do? Well, another possible solution would be just to have Germany issue more debt. Boom. Problem takes care of itself. Now we can go back to the QE plan and maintain the proportionality if Germany was to issue more debt. The problem there is Germany is restricted in its constitution by the amount of debt that it can issue. So we are talking about a constitutional amendment to allow them to do that. But that's actually what they're toying with as we speak. All right? They're thinking about a German government, a fiscal stimulus plan. It's really a social plan to be coal-free in 20 years. All right? It's part of their energy initiative to be coal-free in 20 years. And it's going to be very expensive to be coal-free in 20 years. So to pay for that, they're asking to be able to issue debt. They're asking for an escape clause, a way to modify the Constitution to permit it. Now, that hasn't happened yet. It may or may not happen, but that's the landscape as things exist today. That's the QE landscape. So if Germany passes this debt break, then quantitative easing can continue on a proportional basis. Everything's fine. If the debt break is not passed, quantitative easing could continue, but on a disproportional basis. Yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. But things definitely in Germany cannot continue as they are. Something is going to change. That's the big difference between the U.S. and Germany. That's our message for today. Again, tomorrow we're going to talk about QE in Japan. Far different. They're doing far different things than either the U.S. or Europe are doing. I'm Don Rich. I hope you enjoyed the message for today. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.